Hello viewers, today we're going to continue with the BMW S54 series. In this video I'm going to time up the engine. We're going to assemble all the timing components, the camshaft gears, the sprockets, the Vanos. Actually I'm going to do a separate video about the Vanos rebuild, but in this video I'm going to install it as it is already rebuilt it. Just going to show you how to time it up properly. Here is the engine. I'm going to unwrap it after a second. Just going to show you that this is a timing tool that I bought before time, and I decided to buy a brand new OEM timing components. This is for the crankshaft and this is for the camshafts. So as we can see, this is tools bought from BMW. We're going to do a comparison between this probably Chinese timing tool, I'm not sure, but some people are saying that there is a difference. That's why I decided to buy the OEM one to compare it with the Chinese one and see is it going to make any difference, as I decided to do on this M62. So we're going to see is it worth it. I have already cleaned up some of the gears for the camshafts. They are pretty much ready to be installed in the car. So I'm going to unwrap it, and yeah, actually we're going to start with the assembly of the timing cover. So just quickly to show for the people that haven't watched the previous series, I have changed the oil pump gear. This is from Vac Motorsport, and yeah, I still need to install secure wire, so to make it a little bit more reliable. The oil pump chain is brand new, the tensioner, I have installed brand new crankshaft gear, plus the guides and the new chain. So pretty much I'm going to cut this zip tie and going to install the timing cover. Before that I'm going to tighten up this chain guide with this bolt. So I'm going to install this aluminum washer to seal up here. Actually, when I was disassembling the engine, this bolt was not tightened up and it didn't have this aluminum washer there. I don't know why. So I'm just going to use the good old BMW torque specs, which for M8 is 22 Newton meters. I think it's going to be good enough. Okay, 22. For the timing chain cover, I'm going to install the gaskets on the cover itself, because on the engine we don't have these guiding pins and the gaskets are going to fall down. So that's why I'm going to install it here and going to try to keep it together when installing it on the cylinder block. It's going to be a little bit picky. Maybe I'm going to use the zip tie method. It's going to be a little bit easier. So let me get some zip ties and show you. Okay, so now it's hot with the zip ties and it's going to be a little bit easier to install it. We're just going to need to iron the guiding pins. And I find it kind of interesting that on one of the sides we have this edge here, and on the other is on the underneath of the gasket. So not sure why. Most of the time this lining is on the same side on the both gaskets, but here is different. So hopefully it's not going to cause any issues. By issues I mean leakage, but we're going to see, I guess. So now I'm going to try to install it. Yeah, I already replaced the crankshaft seal on the front, and actually probably it's going to be a little bit picky to install it because the gear doesn't have any angle on it, and it's going to be a little bit challenging to install it here, but we're going to try. Okay, so I'm going to put some silicone on the edges of the cylinder head, so to reduce the chances of leakage. Okay, so the torque spec for these bolts is 10 Newton meters. Now is the time to install these two bolts. Because of the angle and the location of the bolts, I'm not going to be able to use a torque wrench, but pretty much it should be somewhere around 10 Newton meters. So don't forget to install this bracket here. So I'm just going to torque them to fuel. Okay, this should be enough. Okay, so about the crankshaft pulley. This is the part which you're going to need for timing up the engine. It has this washer here, and this is the mark which you're going to need to install your locking tool for the crankshaft, as we can see here. But because I'm going to use this ATI super damper, I want to make some comparison to be 100% sure that ATI damper has the same locking location like the original one. So I'm going to first install the original one, and after that I'm going to install the ATI and going to see is it comes in the same location as the original one. So to be sure that ATI have done a good job for providing this hole in the right position. So yeah, here it is. As we can see here on the top, this is OT. It's a little bit dark, but here's the OT marking, and here is the locking. So let me install first the original crankshaft, let's call it pulley, and after that we're going to install the ATI while we don't touch the engine, and we're going to see is the locking going to be perfect as on the original one. Okay, so the crankshaft, let's call pulley, is installed. As we can see, here is the locking hole. For the people that have watched my other videos, for the disassembly actually video, they saw that I was missing this part on my engine. So that's why I decided to, of course, buy a new one, because without this you cannot properly time up your engine. So this should go like that, and here I was missing also the bolts, so I bought a new bolt like that. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit. Oops, this was a little bit too much. Like that, and now I'm going to lock it. So let's compare the original locking tool for the crankshaft versus the Chinese one. So in first glance, the original one is a little bit more shiny, but it looks pretty identical. So yeah, the original has this hole on the front, but I think both of them are going to do the same job. So yeah, the Chinese one has much more slack, no doubt about it. The original one is a little bit more precise. Still, it has small movement, but if we put the Chinese one, it's much more. So yeah, the original one is much better, no doubt about it. So okay, now I'm going to try to remove everything without touching anything. By not touching anything, I mean I'm going to try to remove the crankshaft pulley without moving the crankshaft. So to compare once again the original pulley versus the super damper one, and see is the hole of the super damper on the same location as on the original one, so to be sure that I can time up the engine safely. Okay, as the original one, we have only one way to install this. We have hole here, which should go in this guiding pin on the crankshaft. Let's install it and try to not rotate the crankshaft. Okay, so the pulley is installed, so let's try. And actually it needs just a smidge. I'm not sure, have I moved it a little bit, but чувам се.
Не знам.
Ти какво правиш?
Колада, кога ще я пращате на къв беше? Ти Никиджия.
Okay, so as we can see, it's just a smidge to the left. So if I use my screwdriver, I'm going to move it a little bit. Oops, it's a little bit too much. Probably going to be able to install a working pin, yes. So I'm going to try once again to install the original one to see how it goes. Probably when I try to install it here, I moved a little bit the crankshaft. So I'm going to try it one more time to see is everything okay, but I'm even not sure so much of a movement going to cause any issues, but let me check it once again to see is it everything perfect. So I tried one more time and it's just a smidge to the left, but still like that I'm able to install the original crankshaft pin and it goes in. So yeah, I think it's not going to be an issue. This is less than degree, I think, so it should be okay. I'm going to leave it like that for now, and yeah, I'm going to clean up this plate and we're going to continue. Okay, for some strange reason I have forgot to buy new bolts for here. So for now I'm going to use the old ones, and in later state I'm going to change them with the new ones. But for now I'm going to torque them to spec. So the first stage is 60 Newton meters. Okay, I'm going to need to figure out how to hold it. Okay, because I don't have the flywheel right now, I'm going to hold the engine with a wooden handle from a hammer. I just broke the conrod with the hammer. So now we should be able to torque it. So the first stage, as I told you, is 60 Newton meters. And the next two stages is 2 times 50 degrees. I'm just going to mark them so to be sure that I'm not going to miss some of the bolts. So the first 50 degrees. And now the second 50 degrees. Okay, pretty much the bolts are torqued to spec, and yes, I'm not recommending you to hold the engine with the walking tool because you're going to break it. So now we're going to continue with the assembly up here. As I told you, we're going to compare the both tools, the Chinese one and the original one, and we're going to see are they going to do the same job. As we saw on the crankshaft one, we had more swag than the original one. Let's see how it goes with the camshaft bridge tool. Oops. So yeah, so this is for the intake. Now let's see the exhaust. Okay, so the important thing is the both plates to be flat on the cylinder head surface. So right now it gets in place. Let's see this one. Yes, this one also. So now I'm going to install the original one and we're going to compare it. But it feels kind of snug. Once again, this is the Chinese one. So now I'm going to take the original one. Okay, so the original one, once again, A for exhaust and E for intake. And yeah, it doesn't want to go in. So let me install once again the other one. And as we can see, the Chinese one is getting inside. But the original one cannot. So I'm going to need to move a little bit the camshafts. Okay. Okay, so now it goes as it should be. So just want to do the comparison as we expected. The Chinese one is a little bit more looser than the original one. The both comes for the camshaft and for the crankshaft. And if you want to be perfect, you're going to want to buy the OEM tool for this job. So yeah. Actually, it's not crazy expensive. I was expecting to be a little bit more expensive. I believe this was around 100 euro and this one was around, the crankshaft pin was probably somewhere around 15 euro. So it's kind of normal pricing for original tool. So yeah, for now I'm going to leave it like that. Just to check it once again, but yeah, it feels alright. So the thing that you want to watch when installing the tool is for a clearance between the tool, the box of the tool, and the cylinder head surface. As we can see right now, we are perfectly flat on the both sides. And if I install it on the other side like that, once again perfectly flat on the both sides. So pretty much right now we are in time. The crankshaft is locked, the both camshafts are in time. It was going to be perfect if we had two of these, but they sell it only with one. So the both camshafts should be in time, and now we can proceed with the installation of these gears. So let me find them and start installing them one by one. Okay, so for the camshafts, as we can see, we have this piece which goes on the front, and actually you can rotate it as you want, but I'm not 100% sure can you install it as you want. That's why I have looked, and there is some small indentation how it was sitting before. You can see it, as we can see, we have one additional hole here, and probably on camera is going to be impossible, but yeah, here it can be seen that previously it was somewhere here. So we should install it something like that. I'm not sure can you install it as you want because of the spherical gears. Actually, this is not spherical gears, this is just teeth which are leading the spherical gears. I think I'm going to install it as it was originally installed, so to be sure that it's going to aim the spherical gear as it's supposed to be in the camshaft. So in our case it should be like that. Yeah. So I'm just going to make marking so to not rotate it by accident. Just to know how to install it, because as we can see right now it moves freely. So I'm going to do the same on this gear. Actually I put a little bit of oil and it's kind of hard to install it. So once again, as we can see here, it's pretty obvious how it was sitting before because of this. So I'm going to install it like so. Like that. Once again, I'm going to make a marking just to be sure. Okay, so we're going to continue with the intake camshaft. We have this, let's call it a shim with threads for the bolts, and we should install them together, because after that you are not going to be able to install it because it's small diameter. This has orientation. As we can see, on behind we have a cone, and on the front we have some signs of touching to other material, so in this case is this one. So where we have some signs of draggage, we're going to install it like that. So this is rotating here, so that's why it has these signs. So let's place it. I believe this does matter how you install it. This should not cause any issues. And now for the bolts, most of you are going to know that BMW have decided to do a different kind of bolts. This is the newer type, and this is the old type, the hex type and the Torx type bolt. We're going to go with the new type which BMW recommends. We're going to put some thread locker on it. So let's install them. I think I found the torque spec. It should be 11 Newton meters, and once again I'm going to apply thread locker on the bolts. It's important to clean up the threads where the bolt is going to be attached. Okay, I'm going to do the same on the exhaust side. Once again, we have pretty much the same setup. The cone goes towards the camshaft, and yeah, doesn't matter how you're going to rotate it right now. Actually, in later state it does matter also, but I'm going to install it once again. So like that. So probably now when I'm torquing the bolts, the camshafts are going to move a little bit, so we're going to need to recheck the timing after that before we continue. So once again, 11 Newton meters. It's not a lot. Okay, so after torquing all the bolts, actually the torque spec for these bolts is between 11 and 12 Newton meters, so I go with 12 in the end of the day, because 11 felt a little bit small. There's not a lot of difference, but still 12 Newton meters. Okay, so now the timing chain, I'm going to try to aim the intake gear, and you need to put some tension on the chain. You don't want to have slack. Okay. And actually, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it does matter how you're going to install this, like that or like that. So I don't believe there is a difference how you're going to install this. Not 100% sure. Are they the same on the intake and on the exhaust one? Probably they are the same. I cannot find the information like this. So it's going to go like that. I'm going to install this on its place, and for this we're going to need to install the spring washer. So it's going to go like that, with the bigger diameter pointing downwards, and this shim which can go, let's see how it was. There should be some marking of wear. Yeah, here it is. Hopefully you guys are seeing, but we have some marks of the spring washer. So it's going to go like that. There is a channel for it, as you can see. Let me show you once again these channels. And yeah, the A is pointing towards us or towards the camshaft. So once again, this washer, you can rotate the washer behind with the threads how you want. It's going to be easier if you put it in the middle just for accessibility, but this is not going to make any issues for the timing. This is just for easier installation. So I'm going to put assembly loop here inside where the spline tooths are sitting. We're installing the spherical gears. You don't want to install them on dry surface like so. I'm going to put a little bit more here on the washer. So like that. Later on I'm going to put here inside. Now don't want to make a big mess. So I'm going to try to aim this point here upwards. So something like that. So I bought some new bolts for the gears. So they are not new design or something like that, but I decided to buy new ones. There is no point of using thread locker on this because we have a spring inside. Let me show you once again. Oops. Because this spring behind, oops. Let me take this washer. That's why I still don't have the open installed. This spring washer is going to put tension all the time. That is what is going to prevent these bolts to get loose. That's why there is no point of putting a thread locker on these bolts. So I'm going to try to aim them. But if you are doing this job, it's a good idea to put some towel here, because if you drop some bolt or something like that, it's going to be really hard to take it out. Okay, just finger tight. I'm not going to tighten it up more than this. And as we can see, this is the whole movement which the Vanos is doing. This is around 30 degrees of movement, but we're going to leave it like that for now. And yeah, we're going to continue with the installation of this tensioner here. So this is the new chain guide. I didn't bought the new one from Basin, I just bought the OEM one. It should do the job. So once again, this labeling. So I'm going to need to clean it up once again. Okay, so I cleaned it up. Yeah, it was like this. Okay, so it's kind of slippery, but I managed to place it. So the important thing on this last guide which we have installed is to be placed. I'm not sure am I going to be able to show you guys, but so they are attaching to each other, as we can see it. Hopefully you guys are seeing there. So you need to be sure that you have installed it properly, because in the initial crank up you're probably going to break it if you haven't guided properly. Okay, so I'm going to install the other gear on the exhaust side. So the exhaust scoop, once again I'm going to install it with this dot here pointing upwards. So it's going to be something like that. And once again we have spring washer and the washer for it. So A is going to point upwards as on the intake side, and as we can see the wear on the washer is once again visible here. So it's going to be installed like that. So I'm going to put assembly loop here. And once again on the splines for the spherical gears. So the washer should be like that, and yeah, nice and smooth. So the bolts, once again all the bolts should be finger tight, so to be able to rotate the gear freely from the camshaft. Once again, this is the full movement. Okay, like that. Okay, so I took a brand new chain tensioner, which we are using on M54 also. So new crush washer. Okay, so the torque spec for this tensioner is 70 Newton meters. So before I continue with the Vanos, it's important to check the dowel pins. In our case, as we can see, this is a little bit further away from its place. So that's why I'm going to use one bolt. For some reason BMW have sent me one additional bolt for the camshafts, and I'm just going to use it for install the dowel pin in place. So hopefully guys you're seeing what is happening. Okay. The dowel pin is set in place. The other one seems fine. Let me check it. Just quickly going to check the other one. Oops. Yeah, it's stuck. So the dowel pins are fine. Okay, so the spline gears. The most important thing to have the full potential and performance of your Vanos system, you're going to gain it when installing the spline gears correctly. First of all, as we saw, both of these hubs are rotating right and left. So for installation, we're going to go to the most left position on the both of them, clockwise position. The both spline gears. As you can see, there is obvious difference between both of them. The difference is the length of this, let's call it a nut on the shaft. So the shorter one goes on the intake side and the longer one goes on the exhaust side. So let's start with the intake one. I have already determined how to install it. So let me show you. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. As you can see, this marking which I have done and the marking which I have done on the spline. So hopefully you guys see the yellow one. And I'm going to try to aim it. Once again, the hub is pointing as much as possible clockwise. So I'm going to aim it and just going to push it. So as we can see, directly goes in. This is the so-called sweet position of these splines. If we try with other teeth, so let's say like that, as we can see, I'm going to need to rotate it just a smidge. But if we go with my teeth, it goes directly without touching the hub. So let me show you on the exhaust side. Turn to the cock side as much as possible. I'm going to try with some random teeth. If I'm the, so as you can see, I'm going to need to rotate it a smidge so to be able to push it. On other teeth is more or less, but let's try the one that I have made. So just going to push it without touching the hub. Yeah, because of the assembly loop is getting stuck a little bit. But yeah, this is the sweet position on the both of the hubs. And this is how you're going to gain the full potential and performance of your Vanos system, because you're going to have the full range of operation of these hubs. That is why you're going to want to do it like that. Once again, for rebuilding these spline gears, I'm going to show it in the next video. Okay, here we are once again with the rebuilded Vanos. I have changed all the seals. I have done 2 additional holes on the oil pump disc, which is going to reduce drastically the rattle in the exhaust hub, and hopefully it's not going to break down the teeth on it. But more about this in the next video. Actually, I'm going to need to do a markings to know how to install it. So this is the new holes, pretty obviously. I'm going to use some marker for this, but let's first install the spherical gears. So this is a reverse thread. So once again, the longer one goes on the exhaust side, which is here. So I'm going to install it. We're going to need a 10mm and 7mm key. So let's rotate it to show you what I'm doing. So I'm going to hold it here. Okay, so about the tightening, you should not go crazy tight with this because it's reverse thread and it should not go loose by itself. So this should be enough. So now the other one, let's rotate it for you guys to see what I'm doing. The butt of the spline gears has reverse thread. Okay, this should be enough. And pretty much we are ready to install the unit in the engine. So just confirm that everything seems right. And actually when installing this, it's really important to press down as much as possible the boot splines like that. This is really important. So make sure that they are fully pressed inside. The crankshaft is still locked. We need to recheck the timing on the camshafts. So let's see, are they still staying in place? Okay, the intake one haven't moved. Let's see the exhaust one. Yeah, the exhaust one also seems right, so they haven't moved. The exhaust one is getting a little bit tighter than the intake one, I don't know why, but even that hard, when installed that hard steel, the blocks are fully flush to the cylinder head, so there should be no issues. Now I have installed a gasket for the Vanos. Yeah, you're going to want to clean the surface here, and after that install the new gasket. These teeth should point towards the Vanos unit. So I'm going to put a little bit more assembly loop inside the helical gears, just to be sure that everything is going to loop up. Also here. Okay, so once again, both of the hubs should point clockwise as possible. So like that. The new gasket is installed, so let's take the unit. Once again, the both spherical gears should be pushed as much as possible. So let me find the markings. Like that. And I'm going to put actually some silicone grease for this O-ring. I have took two of the longer bolts from the coil of the Vanos. Okay, I'm going to install them just to be sure that it's not going to fall down. I'm going to use this from the Chinese tool which I bought. Actually, yeah, I'm going to need to first install this and after that the bolts, so let me remove one of it. My mistake. Okay. So this is just a spacer. You can do it without it, but it's a little bit easier with it. At least use something from this tool. Okay, I'm going to press it. Oops, my mistake, guys. Something that I forgot. I'm going to push it a little bit. I totally forgot that I need to aim the holes of the oil pump, so I forgot to mark them, but I think I'm going to figure it out. So let me see. So yeah, it's going to be kind of hard with the white, but yeah, this is the old hole, so I'm going to need to push it a little bit until I point to the newer one. So I'm going to pressed in the Vanos a little bit more. Once again, the spherical gears are aligning with the marks, as we can see here and here. So I'm going to press it a little bit further and just to check, to verify that the O gear is getting in, yes, as it should be. Once again, I'm pointing to the newer holes. As we can see, the older ones are pretty obvious that are there. So yeah, the camera doesn't want to focus, but yeah, it should be like that. So let me place you once again on the stand. I totally forgot about this. Like that. And we are pretty much flush with these two spacers. We need to stop there. So first of all, I'm going to recheck once again, are we in time? Because probably it's possible that we have moved. Because while we were pressing backward and forward, it's possible the camshaft to be moved a little bit. So just to recheck that, to be sure that everything is fine. So the intake one goes easy and is flat, and the exhaust one, yes, it is where it's supposed to be. So we are good. And now the next stage is to tighten up two bolts on each hub, the opposite bolts. So it was 10 or 11, so with a 10mm wrench I'm going to tighten them up until they are snug. So this is going to make a tension to the spring which is inside, and it's not going to let the camshaft move from its position anymore. So yeah, this should be fine. And now the other one. Okay, like that. After tightening these opposite bolts on both of the hubs, now I'm going to release them 90 degrees. So it's not the end of the world if you don't do it exactly 90 degrees, but I'm going to try to do it as good as possible. So 90 degrees, something like that. This is going to let us to install the Vanos furthermore. Okay, now I'm going to remove these two bolts and going to remove these two spacers. Okay, so now I believe I can use the bolts to push down the Vanos further as possible from now on. So we have 5 bolts in total. The hex type of bolts are going underneath, normal type of bolts are going on the sides. So I'm going to push the Vanos in little by little. Okay, like that. And now I'm going to finger tight the rest of the bolts. Okay, 10 Newton meters. Okay, and the lower ones, 10 Newton meters. Like that. Okay, so the Vanos unit is torqued to spec. Now I'm going to start torquing up the bolts for the hubs. We can start torquing them up. So we're going to have access to 4 of each of them, and after that we're going to rotate the engine so to tighten up the rest 2 of them. Okay, so I'm going to start tightening up the bolts of the hubs. Okay, now I'm going to rotate the engine so to gain access to the other two ones underneath. So I'm going to remove the locking tool. So I'm going to need to do a full revolution. This should give me access to the other two bolts. Okay, so all of them are tightened up. Now I'm going to rotate the engine one more rotation so to check is everything alright with the timing. Коста? Да.
Hello viewers, we are...
Да, че им падна рейтинга само като помирисаха.
Паднаха гледанията, че.
Okay, so the crankshaft is locked. Now let's check the camshafts. Okay, so something went wrong. As we can see on the exhaust one, the block is little bit lifted, and the intake one I cannot even place it. It can go only that far. So I'm going to need to redo this. I'm going to need to undo all the bolts and move a little bit the camshafts. This is what is happening if this happens. So I'm going to undo all of the 6 bolts on the both hubs and going to move a little bit the camshafts from here with 24mm wrench and going to redo it. Probably I done something wrong here because I start tightening up the bolts one by one, but I need to do it first the both side ones and after that the inner ones, but I started tightening up one by one. Actually it was a little bit pickier than I was expecting. I tried the method that I told you, first tightening up these two opposite bolts and after that these two ones, rotating the engine, the underneath two ones, and still I had some issues. I had some liftage here and I was able to fit my fuel gauge, so it was still not perfect. So the easiest way that I found out to do this is when I undo all of the bolts on this hub and on this also, because I had some little bit mismatch on both of them, on the both camshafts. So I undo all of the bolts. I have installed the two like right now, and then I was holding it a little bit with pressure with my hand. So I was holding it like that, and then I will start tightening up all of the bolts. So this is the way I managed to do it. So let me show you. So right now I have hooked up the crankshaft, so the intake one. Let me take the white and show you. On both of the sides on the cylinder head is completely flat, also here, and if I put it on the exhaust like that, we are also flat on the both sides. So yeah, I had to do it several times until I figured out that I need to hold it with some pressure until I managed to do a perfect timing. Probably it was not going to be end of the world, but yeah, for sure I want to be perfect. So now the only thing that left is to install this bracket here. So give me a second. Okay, so I think this is called something like a reinforcement bracket. So it goes like this. I have bought new timing chain guide for here. so 10 Newton meters to the 4 bolts. Pretty much we are ready with the timing, everything seems fine. The only thing that I want to do lastly is to put some assembly loop on the timing chain, so to be sure that it's going to be looped up good as possible. So just to clarify something, I'm not sure how I say it good enough. When you time up the engine and start tightening up these bolts, actually I found the torque spec for these bolts. This is 14 Newton meters for these bolts. And when I done it the second time without holding these two in place, the time was pretty much correct. It was not perfect, but it was going to do the job. By that I mean BMW is giving some spec for this box, how they lie on the cylinder head. They should not lift up more than 0.50 millimeters as displayed here, this fuel gauge. So if you manage to put your fuel gauge underneath this block, you are not correctly timed. And when I start tightening up these bolts without holding the locking tool for the camshafts, I managed to do it, but still I was able to fit somewhere around 0.40 or 30 millimeter fuel gauge, which means it was going to do the job, but I wanted to be perfect, so I redone it once again, as I told you, holding the tool and tightening up the bolts. And right now, as you can see, where I have locked up the crankshaft, the bridge is installed and I cannot fit it anywhere. The bridge is completely flat on the both sides. As we can see, this is the intake side and I cannot fit it anywhere. So this is a perfect timing, but this is the only way that I managed to do it, by holding the bridge like that and tightening up these bolts. Without doing this, it's going to be really hard. I tried several times, but every time I had some little bit of liftage on one of the blocks. That's why I decided to do it several times to see how it's going to be perfect. So just wanted to clarify this. So okay guys, I'm going to end up the video here. It is kind of long video as usual. It kind of picky job, but if you follow my steps, you're going to be able to do it. And yeah, I highly recommend to get the original tool for this, at least the bridge and the locking pin. Probably with the aftermarket one you're going to be fine, but if you want to be perfect, I recommend to buy the OEM tool. And pretty much, yeah, this is it. In the next video I'm going to service the Vanos unit. And yeah, we're going to continue from there. Thank you for watching guys, and see you in the next video. Okay, so from the previous video I have installed this pressure regulator valve, oil pressure regulator valve on the oil pump, which I told you that I bought from Burkhardt Engineering. But one of my subscribers contacted me and told me that probably I have made a mistake here and I have installed the wrong pressure regulator valve. It turns out that these valves are two types. One of it is with a groove like mine, and the other one is without a groove. And it turns out that this with the groove should be installed on oil pumps which have an aluminum pressure regulator valve originally. And mine is steel one. I don't know, maybe it's stainless steel, I'm not sure. And it turns out that I needed to buy a pressure regulator valve without a groove, and as you can see I have with a groove. So yeah, I don't have the time to buy second one without a groove, so that's why I'm going to install my original one, which I have removed. Yeah, it has some scratches, it doesn't look like brand new one, but still it's in relatively good condition. So I'm going to reinstall my original one. And once again, thanks to Jasper, which helped me with this. I didn't read the whole instruction of this, and I was going to make a mistake here. And yeah, I forget to show you the safety wire which we installed on the bolt. So this is a reverse thread, and we have decided to install it like that. Hopefully it's going to do the job. Actually on these engines this is not so commonly seen as on the M54, so hopefully we are not going to have any issues with this bolt.